Hello and welcome back. This is two-time lucky. We've got Mr. Ian Odwyer on again. Let's go.
Gentlemen, how are we on this beautiful January 2022 day?
Oh, I think we're all like way smarter and know a lot of stuff since last time.
Yeah, I reckon I got dumber. There's no doubt I got dumber.
Me too.
And you know what I was thinking before when you said you were coming on, or when Jake said you were coming on, is almost to think about or talk about what we've taken, what's changed in my mindset from when we've met you till
that'd be
now.
sick.
Yeah.
I got a lot to say.
Yeah.
It's you know what's really interesting about what we do and what we learn in life is that, you know, we sit back and look at our phases of life, what we decided to do, how we did it, where we went with it, the people we met, the things that we changed in our lives, and the outcomes they created.
Yeah.
Very rarely do we go back and review those things to see whether or what benefits there's been from them.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's really, really cool. What's been fun working with you guys is that we're all islands unto ourselves, right? You know, we all basically have our own little studios in our own little places, and we don't get a chance to play. We don't get a chance to discuss. We don't get a chance just to have a jam and spill everything onto the table about, you know, what we're taught, what's the truth, what really works.
Yeah.
So that'd be kind of cool to sort of unpack that today about what's going on.
What's the biggest thing you took away? Because we just did a mentorship with you, an 8-week mentorship, which was awesome. And what would you say the biggest thing for you was that you took away?
Just the concept of tissue and thinking of it as dry and wet, and thinking now in my own little head of almost a saying that I've given myself is like, wet it then set it.
Wow. That's a tradesman type of statement, isn't it?
So it's like if someone has too much tilt, say in the pelvis, I'm going to look at where's probably dry, where's short, and long, because they both dry out, right?
So think about those terms, right?
Yeah.
Because we like to say things are tight, we like to say things are short, we like to say things are weak.
Yeah.
I guess for me, sometimes that just gets way too confusing.
Mm.
So, you know, you see someone come in and they've got this S bend in their spine, and we judge it and say, well, it's a scoliosis.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying, well, you know what? Wow, that's actually just a measurement of the amount of stress in their tissues. Mm-hmm. I wonder, in their tissues, what's become wet and where the tissues have got pushed to, and what's become dry and what's stuck down there.
Yeah.
So that's a really cool way to say.
Yeah, stuck. So the concept of stuck is the big sort of takeaway from that. Like it's stuck, and thinking less of that muscle has that action, but really that muscle and the tissue around it is part of that action, because it's all part of that recoil.
Yeah.
So it's all just, it simplifies it. It's just like if someone's got forward head, you can just look at in front of that part,
Yes,
you know what I mean?
yes.
And just know it's all that tissue.
And the interesting thing is when it's in front of that head, which is kind of funny because we keep saying, you know, we've got to make the posterior muscle stronger. We've got to make the posterior muscle stronger to get a better body position, or we might call it posture, right? So why I've always struggled with posture is because there is no perfect posture.
Yeah.
There's an optimal position, but there's no perfect posture, because posture is something we move through dependent upon our emotional state at any given time.
Yeah.
So if we understand that, yes, we have got to make posterior muscles more alert, more communicative, to turn on in a sequence better, but it doesn't matter if you do that, because if you don't change the tissues at the front are always going to win, because they're going to pull you forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool, right? Because these are the ones that are stuck and dry. They're the ones that are wet, but they're the ones that are getting pushed or pulled more into a position where they're saying, guys, can you take some notice of what I'm saying here? These guys at the front are winning.
Yeah.
Because gravity's helping them as they're being pulled down.
Yeah, they got a mate.
They've got a mate big time, and it's called gravity. And it's working 24/7.
Yeah.
But I like that, you know, I like that concept.
Yeah. Oh, it changes everything. It simplifies a lot, and it changes the whole way you would approach a client, and it's really powerful. It makes me in my head think this is going to work.
Yeah.
And it does.
Yeah.
You know? So it's worked lately. Yeah.
And the really cool thing about how it works, it's not based on what we do, it's based on how the client feels.
Yeah.
Can the person feel what's going on? You know, you think about it. Jiu-jitsu, it's all about feel. bodyboarding, it's all about feel. You know, I love my horses. It's all about feel. It's about connection, right? You don't connect, you don't feel. You don't feel, you can't then listen to what the feedback, the biofeedback of the system is. If you are dehydrated, you are not going to get good biofeedback. And all we mean by biofeedback is the nervous system, the fascial system, the lymph system, the circulation. They're all fluid-based.
Yeah.
Bones, fluid-based. Nerves, fluid-based.
Well, yeah, a good concept I remember Paul spoke about was this water. Same for a plant. Is this the connection for the electrical circuit? Without water, it can't connect.
And dude, it doesn't come any smarter than Paul Check, I can tell you right now. But once again, he gets back to the environment, right? He gets back to life.
Yeah, back to basics.
Yeah.
And understanding that, like what changed for me, I understand like, wet it. When we say wet it for people listening, when I say it, like foam rolling and moving the tissue and making sure water gets to it so it doesn't stay static and dry out. But also that it's a living thing and that there's so much to it and that it's alive. So it makes me really think about beyond just telling someone to eat collagen, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like everything, health and the life of the tissue.
So let's just break that section down a little bit because this is where I feel confusion is rife. And this is where what I love about where we have the ability now, you know, Donald, there's lots of people now who are challenging and have been for many years now, challenging the industry because we talk about foam rollers, right? And everyone thinks they know what a foam roller does. Well, as we learned in the immersion, Feel Soma comes from it from a very different perspective because we talk about the fluid aspect, right? Yep. We talk about the neural, the nerves. We talk about mechanical, the pattern. What patterns have you got in your body that we do and create from the time we're born to the time we die? But most importantly, what's the fluid aspect of it? Now, no one talks about that. There's no research. Well, there's lots of research, but no one wants to acknowledge it. But there's lots of scientific research about the fluid aspect of all tissues. But what's kind of funny is that when you put it back into common sense, you know, you put an electrical lead into a bucket of water, how conductive does it become?
Yeah.
Right? So the same in our bodies. If our bodies have got that fluid aspect, we have collagen. If we can get the collagen in a fluid state, if we can get the hydration, if we can get our blood, which is generally a dehydrated state, moving, if we can get the lymphatics, which we have to have, especially to get waste products out, if we haven't got enough hydration happening in our bodies, but then we don't move it. So the foam roll is not necessarily about releasing anything. It's about creating stress in the tissue. But we've got to talk about the stress in a manner in which it's applied. Is it a distress or is it a eustress? How is that fluid being moved around in the tissue? Because you think about breaking a back. That's a skeletal system that you've broken there. It's a bone. 70% water.
Yeah.
Fair bit of distress going through that tissue. Right? You think about someone who does, we're seeing bulging discs at the highest rate ever.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you talk about, we go back and we do deadlifting. There's nothing wrong with deadlifting or squatting or lunging, but there is if you can't get into the best pattern for your body. Because if you can't get into the best pattern, you're going to create a distress, which is going to bulge a disc, right?
Yeah. I made a TikTok purely to follow this one person's page, and it's this guy
that's not a biscuit, right?
What's the word? The cadaver guy. You know what I mean? Just pulls apart bodies, and his TikTok is just 30-second videos of the muscle. So seeing it, you know, an actual dead body's muscle. And there was one on called it the collagen protein cobweb, which is the collagen cobweb. And I only saw this 2 days ago. And when I saw it, I'm like, whoa, this stuff is really thick. And this is obviously dry because the person is dead, right? But I could imagine that if that's dry and they're trying to stretch that, there's not a chance that will give without breaking it up first and making it adaptable.
That'll be a distress, right? It'll be distressed trying to change it rather than caressing it, asking it, hydrating it, and then moving it to create a eustress to allow it to change and to be adaptable.
Yeah, it's just gold. Like for now, I feel like it's so hard to rehab someone without a bit of that. And for me, it's like maybe you can get them out of pain, but maybe they won't be optimal. Because, you know, there was like that guy that needed a hip replacement. Oh, how's the other day, actually, we were with Jake's Krista. And what was it again? It was a TFLA.
TFL, yeah.
Yeah.
Just locked. Yeah, it was just dehydrated,
yeah.
I should say.
So she was putting her leg back and doing a hip extension sort of yoga pose. And as she externally rotated, it felt like it was going to like pop at the front of the capsule. So from the assessment, the only thing that showed up during a Thomas test was that the TFL was it the Thomas? Oh, adduction. Yeah. Was that the TFL?
Overs,
yeah. Overs test.
Yeah.
The TFL was the thing that was different than the rest, you know, in tension. And then we just chucked her on a ball for a minute and then checked it again and the hip was fine. And this is something that someone would do for 40 years and wear on that hip and get a hip replacement once the acetabulin's gone. You know?
Absolutely.
So it's like these little things that just bring it to the position of the joint is so simple. But what I love about it is that if she rolled her hip out herself, she would have found that anyway. So you don't even need to know that.
But if you're not connected, if you're not listening, you're not going to find it, right? This is what I keep saying. Like, it's such a pleasure to work with you guys because you're so open to actually being challenged. And when I say challenge, and Donald says it beautifully, you know, it's not about, we haven't got to agree. I don't want us to agree because it's when we don't agree is when we get the best conversation, right? It's when we start delving in and looking and listening and learning from each other. And it's not about someone knowing everything because I don't know anyone in the world who knows everything about this human being, but it's about understanding the fundamentals.
Yeah.
You know, stress, people get, you know, this word stress is a bad word. No, it's not. We need stress. Stress creates adaptation, it creates change, it creates strength, it creates stamina, it creates power, it creates so many things in our body, providing it's eustress and not distress, providing it's building the neural system and the emotional system and the mental system, it's not breaking it down.
So explain eustress and distress a little bit better. So is distress is like, how would you say it? Like the eustress is when, like, say you're rolling out and so it's a good feeling.
Yeah,
it's creating stress, but it's...
Eustress is when it creates a positive outcome to the action. So that could be playing a game. You know, if you're playing a game with someone and that game that you're playing means that someone's winning and someone's losing all the time, then someone's got a eustress and someone's got a distress. The person who's losing is distressed.
Yep.
How's that going to affect them mentally? How's that going to affect them emotionally? And how's that going to affect them physically and spiritually?
Yeah.
So it's going to change what happens in their tissues, right? Are they going to keep on playing that game? No. What's their body position going to be like playing that game? Not optimal.
Yeah, fully.
So if a distress is, you know, I'll give you an example. I had a lady come in the other day, lovely lady. She's been doing high intensity, various types of, you know, philosophies that are around our society and our communities everywhere now. Lost 2 kgs over 6 months, right? And she's in the wellness industry. She's a nurse, and she came in and she said, "It's funny. I went and saw someone to help me with my food plan, and she lost 10 kgs, and hardly exercised." Right?
Yeah,
that kind of makes sense to us.
Yeah.
And I said to her, "So, what do you enjoy doing?" She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, if you're not happy when you move, people might call it exercise, then you're not going to change your tissue. You're not going to get the adaptation that you want because there's going to be a distress in the tissue. You're creating," you know, she was doing high intensity workouts 4 days a week trying to lose weight. But what we now know is that was creating an inflammatory response, which means she was putting more fluid into her system rather than taking it out.
Yeah.
And breaking her tissue down and creating pain, and now she's getting frustrated.
Yeah.
And so she said, "I love tennis. I love walking in the national park, and I love doing some Pilates." I said, "There's your exercise plan." Pretty simple, right?
Yeah.
But it is simple when we go back to that common sense level. But when, as I say, we empower people to actually voice what their likes and dislikes are.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then the diet's just so huge. I remember I had the same feeling when I first saw Donald, because I had a little bit of a weight complex. One time in Hawaii, I got called fat. I had these little love handles because I was eating shit food.
Yeah.
And I did, to be honest. And I was like, fuck, like I don't want to get big.
What was the story behind that? Was so funny when you told me.
Oh, the chick. Yeah, there's this really hot chick, and I was just like keen on her, and she just walked up to me and she's like, "Whoa, you've gotten fat." Like, pointed at the love handles, like so. And I just like reactive mode straight away. I was like, "Yeah, well, you know what? You're a little slut," like, or something like that. Mind you, I was only 17. I had no idea. Like, I had no idea that it's like anyone back then that made me feel anything, I was reactive. You know, and I didn't even have the consciousness to be able to separate that for a second and be like, "Hey, why am I triggered here?"
But that's life, right? We all had that. It's not. That's part of growing up, and that's, you know, I feel we still want to keep putting things so much into, you know, boxes, you know, bullying. 8 boys and 1 girl in my family. We were bullied every day.
Yeah.
But we weren't bullied to the stage of we took it personally. It was like either suck it up and get on with it, right?
Yeah.
So the hard times made strong people. But now we've got strong people who have made soft people.
Yes, exactly.
And soft people now don't do well in hard times.
Yes, and no one can make you feel a certain way because you're feeling that inside yourself. Someone could do whatever they want to you, but you ultimately can decide how that affects you.
Yeah.
And that's a huge one, eh?
Oof.
That's everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like that's God.
Yeah. The little inner voice that goes, I'm going to react to that, or I'm just going to, sit on that and just breathe and go, there is anger present. I'm going to let it go, And I've always struggled with that with my whole life, but it's getting better and it's such a good feeling.
And anger's an emotion.
Yeah, for sure. I don't get too many of them.
But it's okay to get angry as long as you can take it somewhere, dissipate it and come back and be
exactly
okay, right?
Exactly.
And I don't think I ever understood that because, I can tell you right now, I played a lot of my sport in fear, not in fear of being frightened, in fear of not succeeding, in fear of not being successful, all the things that we've all done.
Yeah, I think I did the same. Like surfing big waves for me. Like I remember saying to the best big wave surfer ever, and I said, "Do you enjoy this?" Like, because I fucking don't. Like, I'm purely doing this so I can just prove that I can overcome this fear. Like, I'm terrified.
Yeah.
And he's like, I fucking love this shit.
Yeah, right.
And I was just like, fuck, we're different. Like, I did it because I wanted to just prove that I could be a warrior, but I never loved it.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, it was funny. I had a guy in yesterday who's been pretty beaten up with horses over the years and his shoulders are wrecked now and his hips are wrecked and he can't get on a horse. And he was just saying yesterday, he said, me and my brother, if there was a horse in the district that couldn't be ridden, we'd go and try and ride it. And he said, I said, how'd you go? He said, yeah, we rode some. But it's the big wave, right? It's
totally.
It's what you do. You see these guys in the MMA and you just think, wow, amazing athletes and what they can take. But is it the physicality? Is it the mental? Is it the emotional? What's the key indicator here that really makes them the best?
Yeah, I just it's such an early stage, don't you reckon? Mixed martial arts, like it's at a stage where it's like
you've got these genetic freaks. Just think about like when I started jiu-jitsu, there was probably like 2 on the coast, and now there's like how many? 15.
Yeah, a lot.
Like and UFC wasn't even near as big, and Conor McGregor made that huge. So it is still so new, and it's it's so fun. We're pretty addicted with it at the moment.
Yeah,
what
it's exciting.
For the same question, what have you taken away from?
Oh, from the
mentorship and from just hanging out.
I actually
the tissue thing.
I took a lot. It was very similar for me for when I worked with Jan Carton because it made me feel like I was good enough. I think it was the fact that I didn't know some stuff and I wanted to know it, and you were always just like, it's okay, ask them. You don't have to know. They don't have to know. It's like it was cool. It's just I feel like I took a lot of. It pulled me back to just being a bit more humble and just like. Being okay to just learn, pull it back and just learn at my own pace and just, be humble with it. Yeah.
I feel that there's such huge pressure on people to know the answers.
Yeah.
And when you listen to the guys who I consider know a lot, they really don't know anything.
Yeah.
Because they're constantly what I called applied scientists. Yep. They're constantly looking at movement. They're constantly listening to the client. They're constantly looking at the environment the people are in. They're constantly giving them challenges and listening to the biofeedback that these people are giving them. And that's the thing that I've taken away over the years. And when I say the best in the business, I don't necessarily mean people in the fitness industry. I mean people who surf, people who train horses.
Yeah.
That's where I've learnt the most.
Totally.
People who can connect to a horse and see a problem and change a problem, you think, that's amazing.
Phenomenal, eh?
People who have been in business that you just think, wow, how do you take 50 people, 100 people, 200 people and get this culture? Just like you guys with the community you're going to build now, is that the culture they're going to have is that they've got the tools, they've got the ability to change their own tissue, they've got the knowledge and the access to good food and good food protocols, all these things that we not necessarily have had promoted in our industry from the day one. And you talk about, MMA it's in its infancy, so is the fitness industry.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
It's crazy,
it's
right?
really exciting because for the people, we haven't had a podcast since we sort of said it, have we? But like we're going to open a a larger gym really. And what we're in like 50 square meters now. This will be 270. And as I was thinking, because we nearly had a place at Forest Glen, and how we were gonna just film our content, and it'll be same size but really push towards that filming content thing. But then in the back of my head, I was like, fuck, the people would love it. People would love a little like private gym, and it would be good for us, not even as much financially, but like just good to hang around, like good for life, and to build our own playground. So for us, we can build an absolute playground where we can train every day. And it's
just nuts. Like we can sit here and talk about it like it's just happened now, which it has. Yeah. But we really manifested it, and it's fucking weird. It's like, I was like, we want a place on the water that's big. And you just Kawana. Around here, like in Kawana, you just cannot get that, Like we applied for heaps. And heard nothing back. It was always gone. And we had a look at one, and it was terrible. And then this thing popped up, and it was just like
the best out of the lot.
Yeah, the best out of like every single one we checked out. And then we just get a message, and it's like, yeah, we're pretty interested. And then we ended up getting it. And I was just like, it's not a coincidence. It's just weird how it just works. Like,
and it's like I think of, and it literally cult. Like it sounds culty, but I literally think of a bunch of people that know how to shop organically and change the world with their dollar, because they don't even need to share things on Instagram. They can just go buy organic food or choose this product over that product, and that's really going to do the most to change in the world, because then your friends will start doing that, and they'll have a bigger sort of gym, and then eventually, who knows, it can spread.
So it's actions, change the world, right? It's actions. People don't listen. Like, it's interesting, Instagram and Facebook and all these things have been what's been driving the world because of what people said.
Yeah.
And we know for people to change habits, it's not what you say, it's what you do, right?
Totally.
So this is what now you're creating, is this community, this center that is going to create actions in people, because it's not you coaching, even though you are, it'll be you coaching clients who coach clients who coach clients who coach clients. Yeah. That's a community, right?
Yeah. And it's like almost a private, like you got to be invited to train there. Like people that have worked with us can train there. So people that haven't, they got to do their work with us first before they can sign up if they want to, because we just don't want kooks, and we want the people to sort of be on the level. If they're going to be hanging out with us every day, they've got to be on the level.
Same values, right?
Yeah, same values, like core values. And I think it's crazy how, as soon as you say you're going to do something, you do it, take the action. Everything just starts to move in towards you at a rapid pace. Like
whether you're ready for it or not.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Just like when we first moved into the new space, and that was a big leap for me, because it was quite a bit of money each week on top of what I was paying. And I was like, fuck, like that's a lot of money. And then all of a sudden it just started working, and now this is the next perfect scary step forward.
The money's not even a consideration.
No,
right?
it's like,
And I almost feel safer about this one than the last one.
Yeah, I definitely do.
Because we know it's going to be
because we've got Ian to back up on. He's got the cash if we need to.
We already got the people.
If we need a loan.
So tell me this. You've both done the immersion now.
Yes.
And then we had the fun time of the 8 weeks post the immersion, where we really went in and honed into it. The face-to-face immersion, what was something you took out of that was big?
Oh, fuck, heaps. Yeah, because the immersion for me was huge. Biggest thing.
Because it's only 2 days. It's only 16 hours.
Yeah, it's fucking huge. It's like if you... And I love it so much, because if you want to learn how to look after your body for the rest of your life, and you can do it, and it takes 2 days to do that, and you can learn how to look after your body for the rest of your life, there's nothing more valuable than that. And I did it firsthand. Like I had lateral knee pain. And you just go through your whole body from head to toe. And, I loved all the...
How frustrating was that, though, when we got to some certain areas with you, how it was like, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there, right?
It was a massive emotional thing for me. I even spoke about it to a female client yesterday, and I was getting emotional about it, because I was like, when we were releasing the pelvis, when we went into the pubic area, I was fucking so angry.
Yeah.
And I was angry at everyone in the room, and I couldn't see it. And I was like, why? Everyone's fucking... This is all... I don't know what was going on, but man, I was fucking angry.
That room went through some big changes in 2 days.
And then I was tired.
Yeah.
I was tired from the first 3 hours. I was like, this needs to be over 4 fucking days. I can't do fucking 8 hours of this.
It does make you very tired rolling, hey?
And looking back, I just think fix my lateral knee pain. Now I know how to release my whole body. And there's nothing more valuable than that. And yeah, it's cool.
But you could see why we have to, like, we look at the rings, the shoulder, the pelvic, the knee, and the ankle, and you can see why we do, self-osteofascial engagement for the shoulder ring, and then we'll do some mobilizers, do some play, because you've got to stimulate the tissue.
Yeah,
and
wet it and set it. Wet it and
set it,
Yeah.
right? I love it.
Yeah.
Wet it and set it again.
That's what I was going to say. What I took away from it was definitely different techniques that I didn't have, but also just, again, the concept of the shoulder ring, hip ring, knee ring, ankle ring, knowing that it's a ring and knowing that whatever affects the front affects the back. Thinking of it again as like the cobweb, just a reminder of some things.
Yeah, not getting caught in the anatomy too much.
Yeah.
Like I was reading Tom Myers' book, and I was just getting obsessed with the anatomy, and I was like, fuck, I'm just going to be another smart guy that can tell you what fucking muscle that is. And since then I've just gone, it's just tissue, it's just an area, and we just need blood flow. We just need to bring blood flow to the area to heal the area.
Yeah.
And so it's cool.
And that's what's nice is though, because you get that in 16S, but then we delved over the next 8 weeks for 4 hours at a time and getting the body work, right? We actually perform hands-on work and we perform movement work.
Incredible.
Now, movement's where most people struggle from a feel summer perspective, because you think about everything we do, we have to lift heavy, run fast, jump high, stretch hard.
Yeah.
And yet self-fascial mobilization is all about low speed, low force,
slow it down.
low tension.
That's the biggest thing.
It's crazy, right?
Every client I have, I'm like, 3 times that speed, go slower.
On their feet especially. And just water stiffens with speed.
Yeah.
And going soft and imagine it melting. There was something else I was just thinking, a big thing I took away. And huge thing I took away actually, and I'd love to go into it a little bit further, is the concept of you always feel the long. That changed everything. That was massive for me actually, because now when I see like a tendonitis or something, I'm thinking, how is that being pulled taut, tight? Like how is it being pulled apart?
So what are we normally told? Things are
tight.
Perfect. Yeah. But when we go into the analogy of a rubber band and we say this is the perfect length tension, right? And that rubber band now is in a scenario where there's it's happy to do whatever it wants to do. But when we talk about tightness is where the two anchor points come closer together. Now, if they come closer together, the tension in the tissue decreases. So therefore the nociceptors, the pain receptors, don't get stimulated. It's only when the tissue gets taken outside of its muscle length ratio
the pain
the awareness that the tissue gives you feedback, right?
And what's that mechanism? What is that? What receptor was that?
Nociceptor. So it's a pain receptor. So what happens is your mechanoreceptors. So we talk about your Golgi tendons, and we talk about the Pacini's, and we talk about the interstitial, the Ruffini's. So there's all these receptors that respond to various types of movement, whether it be rapid, slow, whether it be tangential, which is sideways, or whether it's just a normal rolling up and down or movement backwards and forwards. So what will happen is that when we do repetitive movement, once again stress. When we say we run, because people do stair climbs, right? And people go, but it's good for you, right? Of course it is. But so's running sideways for half a kilometre, which how many of times you've done? Never. Okay, so maybe you might want to try that, right? Because it's that sideways movement that we glue up the most in our bodies.
Yeah.
But we all love going forward, whether it be running, cycling, swimming, whether it's walking, whether it's sitting in front of a computer, driving a car, eating a meal, sleeping. They're all forward motions, right? So understanding that when you get repetitive motion and I'm putting constant stress and I'm putting repetitive stress, I'm now distressing tissue. And when I distress tissue, for instance, how many times have you gone, my calves are tight? How do you know? I can feel them. Yet you go to the lateral head of the fibula, or you go to the front of the shin and you do some work, or you go to the front of the ankle. Imagine going to the bony structure and all of a sudden your calves aren't tight. Or you go to the lateral hip, your calves aren't tight. Yeah, hang on.
A really good, this guy at jiu-jitsu the other day where I train, he goes, I've got groin pain. I've torn the groin on like both of them. And I go, how did it happen? And he goes, I was wondering if it happened like sharp. If it happened sharp, then I was like, oh yeah, it happened
Trauma,
sharp.
yeah.
But he goes, I don't really know. It just happened slowly. So in my head, I was like, all right, like it's torn. So he's telling me it's tight. But I'm thinking,
potentially torn, right?
So I'm thinking it's being pulled. So I go, lay in your belly, and I'll check his internal and external rotation. His external rotation normal is 40 to 40 plus degrees. His were like 60 something on each. So they were so long, right? And then I checked his internal rotation, which is the opposite, and it was about 8 degrees or something instead of 30 plus, right? So it was the opposite. His external rotators, his glutes and
obturator,
all the deep ones, right?
Yeah, all the big deep ones.
We're pulling his legs out, creating length in his inner groin, and he's been going to the physio and they've been stretching it. It's not getting better. It's been like 6 months,
dude.
Oh my God. Months. But he's not my client. I sort of just like gave him a little like, man, like this is what I think, but take it or leave it.
And how often does that happen in jiu-jitsu as well? Like with your glutes are just so locked. Like
it was very rare. And what is it like? I find males have a really free and external rotation, and females are really limited in external rotation, always free in internal rotation. And I wonder, is that them from just closing their legs when they're young, or what is that? Like, is that an emotional thing?
The patterns I see a lot are, you think about it, you know, and this is what I hate. You look at the magazines and the girls all want tight butts. You know, they always want to have this booty that's strong. And it's that's been from day one. It hasn't just been in recent times. And a lot of times we tell people to activate muscles. In other words, we're doing a squat, squeeze your glutes. Well, guys, if you're squeezing your glutes when you're doing a squat, you aren't going into a three-dimensional. In other words, three-dimensional. You can't open your pelvis, which is what you've got to do when you do a squat, right? To get your hips to flare, to get your pelvis to move effectively. So if you're squeezing your glutes, what you're really going to do now is you're going to tuck your butt under, which is not ideal for your lower back. But we've got people who have created research and science who have said, you know, do various things to various muscles, and all of a sudden now we're creating these patterns. So when we get this external rotation that's happening in females, a lot of times it can be because of gripping.
Yeah.
And Donna Lee will talk, you know, physiotherapist from Canada, phenomenal on her gripping patterns. You know, she talks about, you know, whether it's a butt grip or a back grip or a chest grip or a throat gripper, and there's various combinations. And generally, if you've got a female or a male that has 3 of those gripping patterns, they will leak. And that's not cool.
Leak as in
you will have a leaking urinary position.
Okay.
So, and quite often you'll see it with people who do high intensity, where they'll do box jumps, and then to fatigue, and then they'll go and skip on a skipping rope, and they'll leak.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's
just weak.
Yeah,
in a unit.
Well, you've got what's happening is you've got a fascial system now, because skipping's about stiffness. It's about fascial tension. So you've got fatigue now. You've fatigued the muscle by doing box jumps, which is a slow, dynamic, muscular movement.
Yeah.
And then you go into a skipping motion, which is a fascial stiffness motion.
Yep.
Can't hold. So now I've got a situation where my pelvic floor is now just letting go.
Yeah, and the more tilted the pelvis is, the less base of support for the bladder.
Absolutely.
So it just sort of slides off.
So it's just a culmination of everything, right? It's amazing.
I remember Susie Neville. She's a great Czech practitioner. She said, and physio, she said it's unlocked. If the pelvis is anterior tilted too much, it means the pelvis is unlocked and it's loose.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, that's so good.
Yeah, it's a good analogy.
I
She's a clever girl.
Yeah. It's like, because people send in photos of themselves for our online posture programs, because we got like a flat back one and an excessive lumbar curve one, and people send in photos from the side, and sometimes you can't always see the pelvis, like what their pants are doing, but I look at the knees, and if I see the knees that are locked out, I'm thinking, oh yeah, their pelvis is doing that just about every time. Yeah. And it works. You know?
And it's going to say, it's interesting, isn't it? That back program that you've got, how effective is it?
Yeah, we had someone message. Did they text you? Oh, it was Sean's brother.
Yeah. We had a guy that texted us and just said, I can't believe it. It took me 3 years or 6 years.
6 years, he said.
6 years to find this. Like,
sciatic pain.
And honestly, it's just there's a lot of deep tissue stuff in there, and just you could see in his posture that's what was going on.
And it was fascia that got rid of, because you get the people that are really bendy, and the fascia work just makes it adaptable, but the stiffness and the exercise gets them out of pain. But you get people like that are really locked up, and the fascia work gets them out of pain. And like that guy you had, was it yesterday?
Yesterday, yeah. Pelvis of inverted pelvis, 0 degrees on the left, -1 on the right. So, and I was just like, oh, here we go, hamstrings. Straight away, I thought hamstrings or that area.
Yeah.
And I just released it with the deep tissue ball. So I just sat up on the chair, and they sat on something hard and just pinned the muscle and just started to.
So pin the muscle in the butt.
In the hamstrings. Yeah, and then the glutes, where the glute meets the
because apparently it's all connected.
Yeah, exactly. just that area. Again, that's what I learned from the immersion too. Is it's just that area.
Yeah.
So I just went to that area, which I knew was pulling the pelvis, and you can see it in his posture too. And and then I measured his pelvis again straight after, and the left side, because we only did the left side first, it was 7 degrees.
Wow.
But then it's not as easy as that, because he has nerve pain shooting down his right side sciatica.
Yeah.
He's got L5S1 disc bulge.
Yep.
So, and I think it's out the right side too, posterior.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
How was he after this pain wise?
Yes, he was like, oh, the pain. Yeah, I can't bring on the pain in my glute.
Yeah.
So I mean, sometimes it can be that simple.
Yeah.
But this is going to be a pretty tech one, I think. But
you know what's funny? You get the ones that you get change in, and you seem to get harder ones and harder ones. And harder ones.
I know. Usually, I was thinking this should be easy, and then he's like, oh, I can't really straighten this leg because I got nerve pain.
Yeah.
So I'm like, and it's only 2 weeks ago that he's done his disc. So I'm like, all right, this is going to be. So I spoke to him today, and I said, hey, this is it's going to be a long-term thing. Discs in the nervous system they grab on a lot, so you need to relax. Like, it's just water, good organic food, pretty much for a month.
Yep. Yeah, and a year of healing it takes.
Yeah, it's a year, 3 months to a year for a disc. So I was just like, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. What was I going to say with that? Damn it.
Unless you're Ian, what were you going to say?
No, well, I was just going to say, because I think the latest research shows that 80% of people over 50 have bulging discs with no symptoms.
Mm.
Yeah.
So
that would make sense.
Isn't it? Yeah. It's just crazy, right? So if you've got people who are probably eating well, hydrating, moving reasonably well, maybe surfing, maybe playing tennis, doing the stuff they enjoy, no pain.
Yeah. I just remember what it was. That same TikTok guy's video, he showed one.
He's back to the TikTok.
He showed one of the sciatic nerve and how it's pretty thick. It's like the size of your pinky.
It's like a little rope, eh?
And it's going through the hamstrings, and you can see that. Wow, if those hamstrings were dry or stuck to the sciatic nerve, and that's what nerve flossing is, right? They're trying to floss that nerve.
Yeah.
So if you're not hydrating it, it's just trying to pull on dry tissue again. So you're going to do it. It is a nerve floss. You know what I mean?
It is. Hey,
just
or it's a nerve. It's a nerve interaction. Like, because my question's always been,
do you feel nerves?
Yeah. Do you feel they're a conduit? How do you feel a nerve, right? But my question was, how do we know that that's a nerve pain if it's not being impinged or jammed, right? You put your finger in the door and you slam the door, what do you feel?
Fucking pain.
Pain, right? Well, why have you felt the pain? Because it's been impinged, it's been jammed, right?
Yeah.
But just imagine we take the sciatic nerve, which is the size of my little finger, that comes out, 14% of them go through the piriformis muscle. So, you've got a situation where if you've got something that's perforating or works through a muscle and it's dry, now you've got the nerve, the outer casing of the nerve, which is fascia, and you've got the outer casing of the muscle, which is fascia. Now, I'm not saying fascia is the answer. I'm just saying we've got to include all the tissue, right?
Totally.
So if those two tissues are not able to slide and glide, there's a sensitivity, because we know that the surface or fascia itself, and most of the mechanoreceptors are in the superficial fascia, but we know that the surface of the fascia has 6 to 10 times more nerve endings than muscle.
Yeah.
So that's pretty massive, right?
That is, and that's when I see that nerve running through the hamstrings. It's running through the piriformis. If it is running through the piriformis for those people, but everything, tissue, all the tissue, it's got to run through that. So take the friction away of that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So what do you do? For someone like the client I just said, then
I normally refer them to you.
Good answer.
Look, it's interesting, isn't it? Because the pelvis for me was a major player. That was where I had all my pain, all my groin pain. I had basically the ITB, TFL was torn off the bone, knee operations, broken leg, all that sort of stuff. So all down my left side. So the groin, the pelvic region, I now know, potentially because of playing in fear, was probably me having a hypertonic pelvic floor, squeezing my piriformis and my obturator internus, which are the two major external rotators. So when you've got that butt gripping effect because you're emotionally challenged on, am I going to get a game? Am I playing well enough? And the worst part was I was my worst judge. All the sides I played for were happy with my performance, but I wanted to be better, right? And it's just ridiculous because I was so intense on being the best I could be. And that's why as coaches, it can't be about – I love the way he's chewing on that.
He's just chewing on the table right now.
I can't believe we as coaches put such an intensity into players when players are generally, naturally competitive.
Yeah.
We don't put enough fun into it. So we're creating a distress in their tissues simply by having an expectation which probably is too high.
Definitely way too high, eh?
So, you know, we look at anxiety, we look at depression. You know, I look back now and I would see now the amount of athletes that come through who had that all the way through their careers.
Yeah.
And it's just not picked up. And it's just, I can remember I got a mate of mine who, Jonathan Hay, great footballer, played 149 games for Hawthorn. I met John back in 2007. We were doing a thing called the Body Brain Overhaul with a guy called Paul Taylor in Melbourne, and an Irishman like Donald, and very big into the neuroscience behavioural change thing, right? So this was a TV show, and anyway, he had Jonathan came on, and Jonathan, I hadn't met Jonathan before, and because I was up here at that time and I was travelling and all that sort of stuff, I probably wasn't following the AFL from about, probably 2000 to about 2006. So I didn't really know much about John. I knew he was a footballer. I knew he was a good AFL player. Anyway, long story short, he'd had a pretty traumatic time in Melbourne, very successful footballer. And anyway, this body brain overhaul was about measuring the emotional state of people. So they measured the physical and the emotional. So they took into account a personal trainer, they took into account a business person, a corporate person, and an ex-elite athlete. Jonathan had just snapped his Achilles and come out of his boot 3 days before he saw me. So we're running through, I'm supposed to train the trainers for this TV show in functional movement, right? Yeah. So I had 15 trainers in the room. Jonathan comes into the room and he looked like a junkyard dog. His hair was short. You could see he wasn't happy. He's 6'6". You can see this guy's been an athlete, right? Yeah. He's just been an athlete. Anyway, so I can remember, how you going, mate? It was just because you think about it, like he's been everywhere. Everyone's told him they're going to fix him, right?
Yeah.
So anyway,
true. He's
up on a stage, like a 300mm stage. He drops his tracksuit pants, has a pair of shorts on, comes down. I ask him to walk, and he's still walking with a limp. Of course he's just come out of a moon boot after an Achilles repair. Mm-hmm. So in his movement, we did some movement. I got him to do a sit and reach. I got him to do some diagonal reaches with his hands. Got him to walk again, and you could see that he was feeling better.
Yeah.
But he's sort of thinking, what's going on here? Like, you've done a sit and reach and you've shifted my foot, and what's going on, right?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, he's not... Have you got a question to ask, mate?
Rami.
Someone at the front door.
Is it?
Yeah, I think someone just came home.
So anyway, we... It's okay. Hey, he's just looking after the house. There's nothing wrong with that.
He's such a defender.
So anyway, we sit him down, and I said, Jonathan, can you just sit down? I just want to mobilise your foot. Anyway, the trainers looked at me. It's okay. This is real world conversation.
Yeah. Sorry, go again.
So he sat down, and I just started mobilising his foot. Now, you know how I mobilise your ankles, right? It's just working through the joints. There's 33 joints in the foot. And I started mobilising his foot, right? Anyway, and you could see the trainers like, what are you doing? I could just sense he hadn't been touched. All his sporting career, he had hardly been touched. How does that happen with an elite athlete? Like, how don't you touch a person's body, whether it's an ankle or a knee or a hip, whatever it may be? We're pack animals, right? We had this discussion before. We need touch, right? So I mobilise his ankle. He walks, and he's bouncing on the Achilles that he's tried to, because the pain's gone.
Yeah, sick.
Anyway, so it was quite funny. We come back, and he's finished. So he gets up on the stage, puts his tracksuit back, doesn't say a word to me.
Yeah.
Gets off the stage, jumps off the stage. Guess which foot he landed on?
Oh, the bad foot.
The Achilles.
Fuck.
Because he was testing it, right? Because that's how angry he was, right?
Yeah.
He leaves the room, goes into the next room, which I was unawares of, and I was then debriefing the 15 trainers about why we did what we did.
Yeah.
And Paul's just come in and said, what'd you do with John? I said, and I told him, he said to us, I don't know who this guy is, but he said, I'm in. He said, that's the first time anyone's ever changed me. He said, they've all promised me they're going to change me. That's the first time. Now, I tell you that to impress you, not to impress upon you, not to impress you, that we can change tissue, but we've also got to connect with that person, right? But we've also got to connect with us.
Yeah.
Now, Jonathan became a really good friend of mine and come up and stayed with us, and Riley and Molly and Will got to know him really well. And he became addicted to drugs, to pharmaceutical drugs, pain.
Yeah.
And when he was with me, like he would have to drink a fair bit of wine to try and get to sleep because of the emotional, mental stress, right? When we did the TV show, Dr. Roy Sugarman, who's an applied neuroscientist, huge professional, worked all over the world. He was doing the measurement of the emotional, mental state, and some of the pharmaceutical drugs he was on. He said we won't change this. We won't bring him back to where he would be. In 10 weeks, he went from not being able to do a beep test to running a 14 point something.
Wow.
His emotional levels that they measure came down to within almost normal range.
So, and were you giving him self-tissue work to do too?
So what my role was to train the trainers on how to apply movement, functional movement, some roller work, some simple mobile. That's all they did. Yeah. In 10 weeks, they followed this program. He turned up and worked with a trainer one-on-one who didn't know what you know, didn't know what Jakey knew. Great people, great intention, but they just followed the program, right?
Yeah.
And to see him turn around and, we're still mates to this day. And it just shows you, because it breaks my heart when I see top sports people who should be being looked after by the best conditioning allied health professionals, and they're breaking them down. Like from a horsing perspective, I wouldn't spend $1 million on a horse and want to break it down in 3 years, and yet we do that with athletes every year.
Yeah, there seems to be this like theme that you guys who are really at the top of the level in the industry have, and it's mental emotional. It's like you're not just addressing the physical, you're addressing the mental emotional. And when you were telling that story, I could relate, and I haven't really thought in depth about it, but because I broke my back. My boss.
I've seen your back before.
Yeah. My boss Julio, who owned World Bodyboards, he was a real hard guy.
Yeah.
And I don't know, he's gone through a lot of mental emotional stuff himself. I could see that even as a young kid. But I was 16. I was getting paid by him, and I was never made to feel good enough. I was always just like, what's next?
Work harder.
Work harder. Yeah. And sure. Like 19, 20 comes around. I got no self-worth. I break my back.
You got no future.
I got no future. I remember they laughed at me. I was in a meeting and I said, I want to own a house out of this. And they laughed at me. And I'm just like, how's an athlete supposed to, really push? And what I'm feeling now is my energy is being met. So I get paid because I help people and it's being met. My energy is being met, so I feel worthy.
But what do you mean energy is being met? Like how?
Like say it's an energy exchange basically. People pay me to come and get better.
Yeah.
And I feel out of my good, I feel good about it, I feel like I'm helping somebody.
So think about this though, and this is what you two guys have that a lot of coaches don't have. You have something that you can't buy. You have something that you can't just go online and download. You have experience.
Yeah.
When you run 100 hundreds, and you've been in the last 25 to do it, and you've seen 60 players fall over, vomit, not get up, you've seen 10 players never come back and play football again, doesn't make you feel proud. That wasn't about fitness. That was about mental. That was about can you survive, right? That's not good coaching.
No.
But this is the thing, right? But when you know what that feels like, both from a physical aspect, but to see people broken, I know what pain feels like.
Yeah.
And, you've been the top of your game, but sometimes those coaches think that you've got to push guys harder at the top to remain at the top instead of having a conversation of saying, you know what, how could I make this more enjoyable for you, but at the same time get the best outcome for you? So that energy you're getting, that's something now in your bank. That's what I call it's your emotional bank. You've built up an emotional bank. You talk so passionately about it because of your emotional bank. Because no one can tell me what it's like to lose one eye. No one can tell me what it's like to run 100. No one can tell me what it's like to break a leg and come back and rehab and go through all the stuff. And the stuff that they gave me didn't work. No one can tell me because I felt it. No one can tell me how you'd sit in your hotel room or your house or whatever, and sometimes you just sit there and cry and go, my career's over. And you know what that's like.
Yeah.
And it's that whole fear that when I talk about fear, I'm not talking about scared of being run through by someone. I'm talking about, wow, what do I do next? This is my passion. This is my only thing. So when I talk about movement, I'm not talking about movement from functional movement or three-dimensional movement just because I think it's sexy. I'm talking about because if we can't do it, we can't live. We can't make good decisions. We can't play with our kids. We can't get stuff out of our car. That's how important it is. And if we're talking about nerve, muscle and bone, we are so far from this fucking solution. We're wasting our time.
Yeah.
This is an inclusive system. This is an amazing biological system. If we're not looking at the lymph, the blood, if we're not looking at the nerve, muscle, bone, fascia and skin, then we're actually just putting the body into silos and becoming really smart in one area, but really poor in most.
Yeah, it seems like we just need to, in the general industry, it's just like you got to dig a little deeper. But it's hard in this, the whole thing that's going on at the moment too. Is like, I heard someone say the other day, like if you look at yin and yang, there's always going to be that other side. That side like that's anti-vax or the side that's pro-vax, and it's always going to be like this. It's like who's right? No one's right. You know what I mean? But it's like
there is no right, there is no wrong. There's just an opinion, and everyone's got one, right?
It's a reality. It's a sense of reality.
But we said it before. What we try and do, what I did with OD on movement, what I'm doing with Feel Soma, is I'm trying to empower people to make their decision in the most informed way to get a positive outcome. That's all Feel Soma is about. It's a self-care tissue management system that helps you move, feel, and live better. Yep. Now, I don't care which side of the fence you're on because that's not my decision.
Yeah.
My decision's about me.
Yeah.
So if we create a community where we suggest to people that you can eat takeaway, or you can have this organic food, or you can have this food that you grow yourself in soil that you understand and know and have prepared and loved with intention. Now you can eat either or. Not my job, but this will give you this, and this will probably give you this. You give them the information. Which one are they going to make?
Yeah.
Now I've got people who can't grow food. They physically can't grow food because of time restraints or location or whatever. But through the community that we've created, guess what happens? They've got friends in or through ODOM or Feel Soma who now exchange things. How cool is that? We're getting back to things we did 50 years ago.
Yeah, well, like the farmers market's so
farmers
good.
market, that's really exciting because our future corrective culture, that'll be it.
Imagine
that. That'll be cool.
Imagine if you could put a veggie garden at Corrective Culture.
Yeah.
And one day,
I know with Sophie, we plant basil, we plant mint, we plant cherry tomatoes, we plant strawberries, whatever it may be. She goes into the garden and she just grabs something and starts chewing it. So imagine someone comes to Corrective Culture and they come in and they haven't eaten, they grab a couple of tomatoes on the way in and have a bit of a chomp.
Just coming in as a veggie garden that's getting out there.
Well, man, like honestly, the other day I was driving and I just had a very clear vision of corrective culture in the future and what we wanted it to be like, and I wanted it to be just a huge hub.
Yeah, huge. And everyone that's there really gets on that vibe, and this is the way, exactly, this is how we can change the world and fucking get it bigger and bigger and bigger.
Hydroponic fucking gardens.
Just like make sure everyone's on the circadian rhythm. Everyone's got blue light blockers. Everyone's like free range.
But wouldn't it be nice to be able to say though, like, and this is what I love. They come to corrective culture and you identify in their program that they might need some yoga, they might need some Pilates, they might need, because bendy people don't need bendy stuff.
No.
Strong people don't necessarily need strong stuff. We need a mixture. Just imagine if you could say, right, you need to go and see them and do 3 sessions in the next 3 weeks here. So all of a sudden we're building this network, this community that everyone does it, not just us and the people in corrective culture. Because I feel the biggest thing in our industry is people are scared they're going to miss out. We've got, you think about Noosa. Noosa has 45, 50,000 people now. How many people do you really think I could service? How many personal trainers, movement conditioners, physios, chiros, osteos, how many allied health professionals do you think are in Noosa? And trust me, if we had an abundance and I know how many there are in the wellness industry, we can't service the people that are there. So there shouldn't be any fear of me missing out or me not referring on, because it's about the person, not about me.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's so much work.
There's so much work.
Yeah.
We're not worried about work at all.
No.
Yeah.
And but that's got to change, because there's a lot of people who are.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, for sure.
They think I thought it was going to be smart enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And and then you just start doing it more and you get confident, like anything in life.
But dude, it's like everything. When you're passionate about something, you research every day. And yet if I said to you, do you do much research? You go, no, not really.
Yeah. Just like I think,
it's
what do we do? On the driving to the car the other day, we were researching Spiral Line YouTube. That's study there.
Yeah, I know.
You learn straight away.
Yeah, and
the
I
more
listen
oblique angle, the longer the spiral line. We picked
exactly,
that up.
Yeah. And like every night I'm listening to Rum Dust lectures, I love it.
Yeah, I listened to Muji last night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's how you learn, when you love something.
I studied the form of the horse races last night, just in case you wanted.
But how cool is that? That's technology. Imagine evolution. The next, all these little kids that are born with iPhones as negatives, but fuck, they're going to have some information uploaded.
Yeah.
And if you get one of them that has the good information their whole life, that changes.
Yeah.
Well, more importantly, if you get one of them who's experienced the good information or the best information, that's what I mean. Like, just imagine corrective culture now goes down and coaches, and I've done this with a guy called Brendan Wolfe down the coast, and Wolfie's got these little grummets, and I can remember 10 years ago I went and showed him mobilisers, right? Yeah. Still to this day, those kids are doing these mobilisers, right?
That's sick.
Because he's played football with me, not with me, but underneath me, and he's seen what we can do, and he knows it works. Yeah. So all these surfers now have got this access to the movements that help them move, feel, and live better, right? So if we could get the coaches in various sports to start to understand movement better and play better, and how do we create a magnet to bring kids into an environment? Because if we bring kids into an environment, now we can talk to them about food.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to change. I don't want to talk to people about movement when they're 80.
Yeah.
I want to talk to them when they're 8.
Yeah.
I want to play games with them because that's what changes the world.
Yeah, totally.
That's where the power is, right?
Yeah. And
go on.
Paul Check was talking about his son Mana, who he was asked the question whether he was going to let his son have an iPad, and he was like, yeah, of course I'm going to let him have an iPad, but it's just going to be like, I'm going to be militant with it. And it's like, he can't grow up and not be a part of the things that are going to be the
necessary.
future. Yeah, necessary. So I thought that was a really good,
but isn't it funny? Look, if we have a little bit of everything, isn't that kind of what we've discovered? A little bit of everything, and the body really goes well, and the brain goes well, and the emotions go well.
I know. I think it's hard getting caught in the middle. We're always trying to go too hard one way or too hard the other.
Dude, as I said to you, we went to Timbiwa this morning to have a look at the sunrise. So Riley and Aaron Kelly, myself, have gone down there and up at 4:30 and out there, and we've gone up the top thinking, oh, how beautiful is this? And anyway, the sunrise wasn't quite as great because the cloud was there. And there's these two guys who are there, they've come up and all of a sudden they've got this drone going. I'm going, guys, the serenity, the peacefulness, the beauty, I
was just trying to get a shot of you.
They're looking at the sunset through the fucking phone.
Yeah, exactly.
But just imagine, probably if we think about their perspective, they're getting this amazing footage to share with people.
Oh yeah, it's a high.
Yeah,
it's a high.
So it's to be fair to them, it's pretty cool that they've got the ability to do that, right?
Yeah.
I go to Point Cartwright on Sundays and look at sunset sometimes, and I look around and see who's wearing sunnies. And just to say, oh yeah, that guy would be wearing sunnies during this. It's like the most beautiful thing ever. It's not burning your eyes at all, but they want to look good while they're looking at the sunset.
They want to look good to look good.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of I'm a little guilty of that. I got to say, like if it's the sunset and there's phones around, I want to be looking good. It could be a couple of Instagram photos.
I just think because I got the ring right. That Oura ring tells me my sleep scores. I had one of the best sleep scores I've ever had on that ring, and I went and watched the sunset. Got all that red light in my eyes, and then as soon as I got home, it was night, and I put on my blue light blockers, and I slept different than usual. And I was like, all right, that's cool. That the science says that too, but actually doing it proper, not just going outside, but seeing a sunset.
You can regulate it by actioning it.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like it made a quantifiable difference. Yeah. So I'll do it a few more times and see if it works.
And once again, if it does work, you collate more experience through it that you can actually give to someone with anxiety, depression, where they can go and get some peace, look at a sunset. Because let's face facts, it changes your emotional state instantly when you see something like that. Like this morning, just to be up there with the boys.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
It was just beautiful, right?
Yeah.
And we were looking at, the whole coast and to hear Az talk about it and Riles talk, it was really, really cool for them at their age to appreciate that.
Yeah, that is for, it probably only happened to me in the last probably 5 years ago. I really started really appreciating that sort of stuff. And it's like you said, from experience, and you're telling a story and then people remember stories. They wouldn't take it as much if I said, circadian rhythm for your eyes, it releases melatonin, all this shit. But I could say, when I did this, they remember that. Same as like I remember spondies because Jake hurt his back. Was it's just another injury? Like all these
Or it's another fancy word, right? It's another technical term that I don't really understand.
Yeah.
But when you've experienced it, well, this is what we found, this is what I did, but this is what didn't work, this is what I found did work, but I know now that we can improve that by A, B, and C. That's the story, right?
Yeah.
So powerful.
We get so caught up in things. I know Paul has this quote. He's like, when did you lose the awe and the mystery for life itself? And I often think about that because I'll be so caught up in just everything. And I'm like, fuck, it's pretty crazy that we're even here.
That's what it's all about. And you see people that don't have that, and exactly that, they're the ones that are depressed. They don't look at the moon and think, fuck, that shit's amazing right there. Like,
fully. You come outside, and it was funny, Molly and Tyler came back from Melbourne a couple of weeks. It was so good to see them. And we're just sitting outside, and Tyler's looked up, and Tyler's a country boy from Victoria originally, and he's just gone, have a look at the stars. And there's the pot and there's this and that. It was just fantastic, right?
Imagine even 1,000 years ago, what you have no idea. There's no telescope or nothing.
Oh, man.
You're like, what the fuck is that? They would be gods.
You know that Aboriginal fella that I met up in Harvey Bay when I was shooting?
Yeah.
He was just, I can't even remember all the stuff he was saying, but he was saying which stars do what, and when the Taylor are running, this star's doing this. And man, it was incredible. I wish I probably got on camera, but I wish I wrote it all down because he was just like, the Taylor will run this time of year when the stars are doing this, and like he knows everything. He's like, it was crazy. He's like, there's a wombat and there's this. I was just like, this guy's the man.
That's the knowledge.
So in touch.
That's the knowledge I want to know.
And he had that look in his eye that was just so sure.
Yeah.
Which, like when you meet a guru or someone who, I don't like to use the word guru, but someone who's very spiritual, very, very just calm, connected would be the word. They just seem really happy and really, it's almost like they're looking into your soul.
Yeah. Just like checking in that time with you.
Exactly, man. It was like meeting Paul in the Aboriginal version, and this guy was just so beautiful and loving. It was sick.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. So but what's next for Phil Sommer? Like, I saw the website the other day.
We've finally got the online immersion up and running, which is fantastic. So it's taken us 14 months to get where we've got to, but we wanted the experience to be the best. I've worked overseas. I've worked involved with a lot of projects over the years, and the projects have been fantastic, but they've never been quite what we wanted because there's always been a time frame. And I've probably slowed it a little bit because, we wanted to make sure it was spot on. And we're really happy with it now. I've just shot another 2 days and I've got one more day to go. So I've done a golfing movement prep and golfing movement recovery. I've got more self-fascial mobilizers, and I've got another 40-odd drills that I want to put up. So I can really start now putting up the sport-specific programming.
And you can just log in.
So you can go online. You can go on, if you want to look for some reconditioning programs, you can go on there. They're dirt cheap. There'll be golfing, movement prep and so forth programs, and you want to go online and do the online immersion, you can go on, click online, pay online. You get password access to all the videos. I think there's in excess of 200 videos in the online immersion. Like the quality of videos are unreal. We're so happy with it, right?
It looks amazing.
So it's this is only level 1. We've already got 2 and 3.
Yeah.
So, but we want to get level 1. We want to get it now where people are doing it and they're getting the results, and that's what's been really, really cool.
That's sick because it's just, and the best thing is it's just there forever.
As
long as the internet doesn't crash, it's there.
Well, it keeps evolving, right?
Yeah.
That's the cool thing about it, and it's it's like your back program. It's what people have got to understand is we don't fix anyone. We never have. We never will. People fix people. But we can supply the guidance, the tools, and the direction to give you the best opportunity to help you be the best you. And that's what I really love about where we're going now. You know, there's
Yeah.
some pretty cool people up on the sunny coast now. And the network's becoming strong. And it's kind of interesting when you look at the energy of what's going on, why those people are here. So it's
the hub. It's the hub these days. Sunny Coast. It's good.
And you're fucking leaving us.
Well, I'm leaving you to go to New Zealand to help me heal a little bit, but also I'll be coming back to make sure I stay in
That's
contact.
selfish, man.
I've only been here 23 years. But the cool thing is, and it was funny because my eldest daughter said the other day, she said, you know, Dad, you couldn't stay in Noosa 2 minutes without going overseas. So it's not going to change when I go to New Zealand. I'll be coming back here to do a lot of stuff over here.
Yeah, for sure.
But it'll be cool because of the fact that I'll have an opportunity to have a horse. I'll have an opportunity now to have a house that's ours.
Yeah.
But also too, where we are is very, very healing, which is kind of nice because I've had 20, when I look back and I've had 22 years of traveling and busyness and that sort of stuff. So now with Feel Soma being where it's at and getting back to some more live immersions and corporate workshops when this stuff starts to settle down more, that's what we're looking forward to.
Fuck yeah. Good shit. All right. Well, thanks for coming on again.
Boys, I'm looking forward to the next stage of Correct the Culture.
Awesome.
I'm looking forward to the new premises.
We're definitely going to have you in there to run some immersions and stuff.
Don't worry. I'll be coming.
Definitely.
Yeah, man. It's been awesome. And, it's been really good.
It's been a journey, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It's been a journey. It's been a pretty cool time.
It's been crazy.
Until the next time, for sure.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Thanks, man.